So we'll start with the invocation that I expect all of you know very well by now. There is the prayer booklets are here for those of you in the room, and we'll put the words for the prayers in the chat window as we go along as well. So beginning with the invocation. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Let's do it once more, but a little bit quieter this time, just so you're really speaking this invocation, this invitation into your own heart, into your own awareness, into your own what's the word for it? Into your own atmosphere that is really enlivening your own vibration with this intention. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Amen. And we'll also say the prayer psalm, which is one of Murshid's longer prayers that he offered as, it's too long to put in the chat window all together. Hold on a second. That's weird. There's the first half-ish of it, and here's the second. I wonder why it's not fitting today. It always fits. So I'd like to go through the prayer psalm slowly today, and we're not going to do all of the movements for it. That includes a prostration, a bowing with head on the ground, and that would not be pleasant for me today physically, so I'm not going to do that. But I would like to invite us into more of the embodied atmosphere of this prayer. That the first time these prayers, the invocation, Psalm, Salat, and Khatum, were shared in public was as part of the first universal worship service that was led in London in 1921. And the prayers were not led by Murshid, but it is described that he was present and was doing the gestures for them while they were being spoken by the congregation, led by one of the first Shiragas, one of the first ordained ministers in his Sufi order. So the movements for this really invite us into the felt experience of the salat, of the Islamic prayer that is done 5 times a day for some practitioners. And there's a quality about the prayer psalm that is really clearing out any sense or connection or identification or clinging to the limited self in favor of putting all of our attention and energy and awareness and heart focus toward the magnificence of God. So, an invitation to really touch into a humility, a softness in the regard for self, and a full awareness of the overwhelm of God. So we'll begin, if you wish, to join me in the extent of the gestures that I'm going to do. The hands are open and forward. That is so receptive, just like everything about the body is open, inviting, calling forth. And it's an awkward posture, isn't it? It's so exposed. It's so like, this is the gesture of surrender. This is put your hands up, put your weapons down, put your hands up, right? That's not the intention or the meaning of it in the prayer, but you can feel that sense of like, all right, here's all of me. Here's my heart wide open, my face open, my hands open. I'm not doing anything else. This is the posture for regarding the beloved. We'll say the first part of the prayer and then we'll pause and describe a little bit more. And in these first few lines, the hands start moving closer and closer to the head until they just touch, because we're listening, because we have this sense of openness and receptivity, and they come in just until they're barely touching the head. Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading. And now the hands come down in front of the belly, the only being, the only being. And now we do a partial bow, that while we're seated and not doing the full body prayer for it, you can just put your hands on your own lap and just lean gently a little bit forward. Take us in thy parental arms. And just feel into that request that is the longing to be held, and with that little gesture of surrender, of just leaning in and softening the self and saying, please God, I am the child. And then rising up straight again. Raise us from the denseness of the earth. That is such a simple, bring us upright. That is a little defiance of gravity, a little defiance of the hardships of the world. I shouldn't say defiance. A little taste of freedom from the denseness of the world. And now I'm just turning my hands palm up to lean forward again, and this is the part of the prayer that would go into a complete bow, bringing head to the earth, which I'm not going to do, but I invite you to just feel into the atmosphere of really letting go entirely, of putting the mind below the heart. Thy beauty do we worship, to thee do we give willing surrender. And then coming upright again and regarding the loving nature of God. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity. And then we bow again. Thee only do we worship. And then we rise again. And towards thee alone we aspire. And then the right hand comes across to the heart. So the fingers of the right hand are actually touching, referencing the heart center that is on the left side of the torso, that is the physical heart. Open our hearts towards thy beauty. And then we bring the left hand so that the fingers of the left hand are touching, referencing the heart center that is on the right side of the torso, that is associated with the breath and with the soul. Illuminate our souls with divine light. And then Murshid was so clever, he included the sign of the cross that is actually touching the forehead, the heart, across to the left shoulder, across to the right shoulder, and then bringing the hands down again. That is really, it is the gesture of surrender. It is the gesture of the zikr that is saying, only God, not me. Only God, not me. Yeah. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty. Now, we think that Murshid said to put hands in a prayer mudra, but I just spent some lovely time with my teacher, and he just folds hands over the heart because it feels more comforting, because it feels more loving, more soft, more holding. So I've been doing that, and you're welcome to do whatever hand gestures feel appropriate and good for you. All-powerful Creator, Sustainer, Judge, and Forgiver of our shortcomings. And we turn to the right and then to the left. Lord God of the East and of the West, and then looking up and then down, of the worlds above and below. And then we open our eyes and look forward and then close our eyes. And of the seen and unseen beings. And then we raise our hands once more in this receptive gesture, asking for and ready to welcome in. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. And we bring our hands close together, and it's like we create a reflecting pool in front of ourselves so that we can see all of the ways that we can embody the realities of our beloved God within ourselves. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. You're welcome to do that every morning or any time of the day you want, but that was part of the morning prayer set that Marcia gave. Today we're visiting Sufi Message Volume 5 because I don't even remember now. There was one phrase in particular that jumped out at me from this volume, and I went and found that phrase in the book and then just started reading things before it and after it, as I do, and as we all do probably, where you just find something and like, oh, what else? And it just like leads you around in this choose your own adventure tale of Sufi mysticism. And there are 3 different sections that I pulled, but I didn't make note of what pages they were on. That wasn't very smart of me. I found it. It's okay. I found it. Okay. Self-knowledge. Well, I thought I found it. Oh, because I shuffled it around. Okay. So this is a section on self-knowledge from the Sufi message of spiritual liberty. This one is so nerdy, it makes me so happy. I had to go look things up in here. Okay. Nature has been involved through spirit into matter and evolves through different stages. I know, right? You're just like, what did he just say? Okay. Nature has been involved through spirit into matter and evolves through different stages. All right, you could say, and Murshid would say, spirit is the all-pervading life that is in everything all the time. Spirit is the living essence of creation. And he distinguishes spirit from soul, that spirit is God. Spirit is present within everything in existence. And spirit is eternal. Then there's soul. All of those things apply also, but soul is an individuated experience that is like Sadiq is a soul and Ara is a soul. And spirit pervades and gives this living essence to each of you, to each soul. Spirit, nature has been involved through spirit into matter. That is like nature is the specific phenomenon that happens through the all-pervading life in space that comes into specific form and then evolves in a dynamic unfolding process. Fun, huh?
Amazing.
Man, that is human beings, man is the result of the involution of spirit. The what? The involution of spirit and the evolution of matter. What? The final effect of this cause is self-realization. Hold on, there's more. This is all part of one sentence. Self-realization, which means that the knower, with a capital K, that the knower arrives at that stage of perfection where he can know himself. I hope that your minds are just blown in 8 directions right now, at least 8. Okay, man, human being, is the result of involution of spirit. That's what I had to look that up. I'm like, what is that? Do you know what it is? Do you know? You probably do. All of you smart people out there in Zoom land know.
He didn't just make up that
He
word.
did not make up that word, but And I expect that it was probably being used a lot in his time, which was 100 years ago, 110 years ago, maybe, that he was actually speaking, giving these talks. So the involution is a condensing down into itself. So the involution of spirit is this all-pervading reality of spirit that squashes itself down into manifest form.
Like a black hole.
I doubt he would say it's like a black hole, but I'm gonna say,
It's
you know what?
folding whipped cream. When you fold
Okay,
it,
yeah.
fold it in.
Okay, excellent. Folding whipped cream. I'm gonna see it right now. This is totally stupid. Y'all should not let me say this, but I'm gonna say it now anyway. I'm gonna see it right now as, you know, those little capsules that you get as a child that you soak it in water and it pops itself open into a sponge that is like a dinosaur? Or like, right? That like it just gets so condensed down into a particular form, but then it also evolves out and open into itself, right? Okay. So, thank you.
Dinosaurs whipping cream in
Yeah,
black hole.
yeah. Okay. All right. So here's this ridiculous sentence. I mean, it's so brilliant. It's ridiculous because it's just such an overwhelm of describing something so vast that my brain kind of implodes. Okay. Man, human being, is the result of the involution of spirit condensing itself down into specific, distinct, discernible form, and the evolution of matter, the unfolding dynamic process of the material existence playing itself out. Okay? Sort of. The final effect of this, what actually results from spirit, like coming down into form and then unfolding outward into creation, the final effect of this cause is self-realization. What ultimately ends up happening is self-realization. And he did put that phrase in quotes, self-realization.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the self capitalized?
No.
No.
But it could be. But I think that would create a confusion because he says self-realization, which means that the knower with a capital K, the knower, the God consciousness, arrives at that stage of perfection where God can know herself. God does not know herself by staying in her lofty abode. God knows herself by coming into formed, physical, limited existence and unfolding into clear consciousness in physical form. Got it? Yep, got it. Check. Moving on. Okay. The human being is inherently capable of self-knowledge. The human being is inherently capable of self-knowledge. But to know oneself means not only to know that one is, for example, John, Jacob. Don't you want to hear Jingleheimer Schmidt after that? He didn't say Jingleheimer Schmidt. He did say John, Jacob, or Henry, or Rahima, or Zahira, or Sophia, or not only that one is the name, or short, tall, or normal height, or to know that one is good or bad, and so forth, but also to know the mystery of one's existence. So you get to know your physical traits and your personality, but there is also the mystery of one's existence. Theoretically, as well as practically, to know what one is within oneself from whence and for what purpose. I'm sorry, I didn't dwell on the word whence like I should have. I know, it's such a beautiful word that he uses a lot, and I love it so much. So I should really dwell on it. To know what one, okay, I'm sorry, now I missed my place. To know the mystery of one's existence, theoretically as well as practically. To know what one is within oneself, from whence and for what purpose one was born on earth, whether one will live here forever, or if one's stay is short, of what one is composed, and which attributes one possesses. This is all one sentence, my goodness. Whether one belongs to angels, contemplating the beauties of God's nature, or if one belongs to the animals, who know nothing other than to eat, drink, and be merry, or whether one belongs to the devils. That's one sentence. Oh my God. But wait, there's more. It requires perfection in humanity to attain self-knowledge. Now that's one sentence. It requires perfection in humanity to attain self-knowledge. To know that I am God, or we are gods, or to know that everything is a part of God is not sufficient. Perfect realization can only be gained by passing through all the stages between man, the manifestation, and God, the only being. That's not a complete sentence yet, I know. Hold on, let me finish the sentence, then we're going to come back and dwell on things a little more. The only being, knowing and realizing ourselves from the lowest to the highest point of existence, and so accomplishing the heavenly journey. Yeah.
I mean, not the whole sentence. Just
Not the whole
last one you
sentence.
just said.
Heavenly journey.
The last 10 words.
I know. Knowing and realizing ourselves from the lowest to the highest point of existence, and so accomplishing the heavenly journey. Because the heavenly journey is to know ourselves from the lowest to the highest. That is the process of attaining self-realization, which is the same as knowing God. This is like page 16 of this little volume. This is like just past the introduction. This is how Murshid opens a conversation.
I could read that every morning for the next 5 years.
I hope you do. Yeah, please do.
And what makes it even harder is that I hear that little Indian accented voice. I mean, it must have just been incredible to try to hear it spoken and understand it. When you have it, we can read it and read it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Could you read it again with an Indian accent?
You know, I've been working on my Murshid accent, but it's not there yet, and it would just be insulting.
You could call a helpline and
All right. Zoom friends, how are you doing out there? Are you okay?
Everybody's got their cameras off.
Yeah, but I saw Emmeline put a thumb in the air.
I have a quick question. Do you have to pin your video for the recording?
No, I don't know.
Doesn't really
I
matter.
didn't do it. This is what I did.
Okay.
It's what I'm doing.
Just
We'll see what happens
I don't
with it.
understand how that works.
Okay.
I could use that whole thing read again, but I don't know what you got planned there.
I have so many things, but I also decided that I'm not doing half the things because I had really planned to do a lot of bowing practices today, but my physical condition is not pleased with that plan today. Maybe that's why. My physical body is thwarting my plans, like no bowing today. Okay, so here we are again. Self-knowledge. You ready? Nature has been involved through spirit into matter and evolves through different stages. Man, human being, is the result of the involution of spirit and the evolution of matter. I just love that phrase. The involution of spirit and the evolution of matter. The final effect of this cause is self-realization, which means that the knower, with a capital K, the knower arrives at that stage of perfection where he can know himself, where God can know God's self. The human being is inherently capable of self-knowledge. But to know oneself means not only to know that one is John, Jacob, or Henry, or short, tall, or normal height, or to know that one is good, bad, and so forth, but also to know the mystery of one's existence, theoretically as well as practically, to know what one is within oneself, from whence and for what purpose one was born on earth, whether one will live here forever or if one's stay is short, of what one is composed and which attributes one possesses, whether one belongs to angels contemplating the beauties of God's nature, or if one belongs to the animals who know nothing other than to eat, drink, and be merry, or whether one belongs to the devils. It requires perfection in humanity to attain self-knowledge. To know that I am God, or we are gods, or to know that everything is a part of God is not sufficient. There's more, but I just want to let that echo. To know that is not sufficient. Perfect realization can only be gained by passing through all the stages between man, the manifestation, and God, the only being. Knowing and realizing ourselves from the lowest to the highest point of existence, and so accomplishing the heavenly journey.
When he says lowest there, can we equate that to the shadow?
No. You could equate that to the base nature of existence. That when he's, that's a good question. That he's talking about from the most dense to the most refined. That is more a level of consciousness.
Well, that is where I get confused because that is also how I heard it.
talking about like knowing, I mean just knowing that you are God is not enough. And then to know that you are like all of that, but then when you say like the dense material, that confuses a lot of things to me because it was bringing up like, so does he mean like to be fully integrated as a human, recognizing our devil, the animal nature, and angelic? But you're saying no more as a material.
She mentioned consciousness, right?
That's where I
The
don't,
denseness of
I
consciousness.
don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either, but it sounds cool.
I won't be able to quote this precisely, but Murshid does say that if it was intended for us to just sit around praising God all day, every day, we would have stayed in the realm of the angels. We did not stay in the realm of the angels. We came into the realm of human beings. Murshid describes with great poetic elegance the journey of the soul whence and whither. That he doesn't say it that way. I'm saying it that way as like a Mary Poppins silliness because of the fun language. That we can think about the soul as being part of God, and there is this consciousness that we recognize and describe as, what is God aware of? Is God aware of herself? There is a beginningness of God being aware of herself and not being able to experience love as a unified being and needing to individuate into separate aspects of creation in order to experience herself, in order to love. That doesn't happen if it's just one amorphous blob of uncreated godness. Then what Murshid describes is that the soul journeys through the angelic spheres, experiences the angelic spheres, and decides to journey onward through the jinn spheres, experiences the jinn spheres, and decides to journey onward into physical manifest existence. Then he often refers back to Rumi and Rumi's description about the evolution of matter that goes from the most dense forms of creation, which is the mineral realm, the realm of the rocks. And there is a particular kind of consciousness and livingness about the realm of minerals. But there's an evolution that happens out of the realm of minerals into the realm of plants. There's a livingness and a consciousness about the realm of plants. And the evolution moves beyond the plants into the realm of animals, the living beings, the creatures, all the different forms of creatures. And according to Murshid's cosmology, there's a further evolution from the realm of creatures to the realm of the human being. And human beings are creatures, but also have the capacity to evolve into self-realization. You're welcome to splash around in philosophical arguments about whether there are other creatures of the earth that are capable of self-realization. I have no knowledge about that. I have limited knowledge about human beings' capacity for self-realization. Murshid has great confidence in us. So I have enough optimism to carry on. One of the big indicators about the human potential for self-realization is our capacity for self-discipline. That is, our capacity for recognizing our desires and managing them according to our will. That is intentional, personal volition that goes into shaping our actions according to higher values than what the animal kingdom is capable of. When he talks about the animal nature that is based on activities of eating, drinking, and being merry, those are available to humans as well. But especially if we have chosen to step onto a spiritual path of self-mastery, we try to overcome those, to manage them and to shape them into a right, healthy balance in order to pursue other higher ideals. Then he would also describe that each human being is functioning according to his or her unique evolution. So each of us comes in with a certain capacity, skill set, wisdom body, an ability to understand and develop mastery. And it's different for each person. We're not all capable of all the same things. And we're not all drawn to all the same things. That is also according to each individual's evolution. So we're invited to individually take stock, to look with as much clarity as possible. What is the capacity for my own life experience, development, training, service? And it's not about competing or comparing with anyone else's. It's just going really honestly, what's here within me? What am I capable of? Did that answer your questions at all? So I'd like to visit Murshid's Zikr. And we touched into this during our noon Zoom today, that we're kind of weaving together a few different things. So the zikr phrase that Murshid taught in the Arabic, he pronounced and hold on, I'm trying to find the written version of it for the Zoom friends. Gave this instruction that it is La ilaha illa Allahu. And he did give instruction for singing it, because music is the food of the soul. That is what he said. Music is the food of the soul. And music awakens the heart. And when the heart is awakened, we are naturally drawn to overcome the self-cherishing and to focus more on love. So singing La ilaha illallahu in the melody that Murshid gave. And then early in his teaching career, he realized that because he was primarily teaching English speakers, that it was important to give teachings and practices in English, because we need to understand what it is that we're saying in order for it to be immediately useful. So he did say that if any teachers were to give practices to murids, to students, and if they were going to give practices in any language other than the vernacular, the usual spoken language of the murid in everyday life, that the explanation, the definition needed to be taught very clearly and explicitly so that it could be immediately useful. That I have heard some approaches that are more like, just do the magic phrase and it will work. And you will understand the meaning when it takes root in your being and you evolve into it by doing the practice, which may be true. Whether it's true or not, it's not the instruction Murshid gave. So. Now we can also look at, like, okay, here's the phrase, here's what we understand it to mean, but does it actually mean that when we do it? Like, do we actually feel that as the living reality of it? Because that's another question entirely. All right, so then he gave the zikr phrase and he said, here's the zikr in English. He didn't say it's a translation. This is not a translation of La ilaha illallahu. It is an essence meaning of it as described, as verbalized in English. You could say this is the basic meaning, the relevance and the usefulness, the application of the zikr in a language that we can immediately understand, which is, this is not my body. This is the temple of God. I just want to hang out on that phrase for a few more breaths. This is not my body. This is the temple of God. This is not my body. This is the temple of God. How might that shift your relationship and judgments and expectations and treatment of your own physical body? If, first of all, it's not mine, I don't own it, I didn't create it, I have the great privilege of riding around and being responsible for it. I get to experience life in this physical form. Now it's a privilege. This is the temple of God. It's not just a lump of flesh, clay. It's not just the clay vessel. It's the temple of God. It is the sacred space that God inhabits, where God can be found and worshipped, met, communed with, related to, spoken with. Next line is, "This is not my heart. This is the altar of God." This is not my heart. This is the altar of God. Same thing of overcoming that immediate possession or creation of this is mine. But placing it as the center of adoration, of love. The Holy of Holies, at the center of our own experience, awareness. So for this practice, we'll weave together the zikr phrase, La ilaha el Allahu, in the form that Murshid gave, in the melodic form that he instructed. And then we'll also wander into the English, this is not my body, this is the temple of God. This is not my heart, this is the altar of God. La ilaha illallahu, la ilaha illallahu, la And let's spend a few minutes in the fikr, which means we're keeping this phrase on the breath, and you can try it either way. Breathing out La ilaha and breathing in El Allahu. Breathing out La ilaha, breathing in El Allahu. Or breathing out, this is not my body. Breathing in, this is the temple of God. Breathing out, this is not my heart. Breathing in, this is the altar of God. So just following the breath in your own rhythm. A few more breaths. Questions? Reflections?
Will you explain with the altar of God, this is not my heart, this is the altar of God? Sometimes I get a little bit confused by that, just because definitely my brain works very visually, so I think about like God bowing down to my heart, which doesn't totally, like, it doesn't really work for me anyhow, because I have a hard time seeing that. And so that's where, like, I understand that, like, my body is a temple of God, but that feels a little bit easier than to imagine, say, the divine bowing down to my heart. And I know you had said something about it a little bit earlier, but I can't remember what you said. I'm trying to was explaining that.
You're so awesome. I love what your mind did with that. That's so great. I don't know. How could it not be God bowing down to your heart? I like that interpretation. Can you go with that? What happens if you try to go with that?
That's hard.
I know. Isn't that great? Like, wow. That's so pretty. You know, likey?
Huh?
You know, likey?
Well, it's just hard, because it brings up a lot of my worth, like, who is God to be bowing down to my heart? Like, I should be bowing down to the heart of God, and I understand that it's the same, but it's just,
You understand it's the same.
well, I mean, ultimately I am God, and my little ego self has a lot of worth stuff, and so my ego gets in there and is like, I am unworthy of being bowed down to. And so that's, and I understand that's not like my highest realized self, but it's, you know.
I love it. All right. This is not my heart. This is the altar of God. This is not my heart. This is the altar of God. So I'm just noticing that when I start phrasing this, and I'm deliberately like trying to make it confusing to my own consciousness, right? In order to describe like, what is this? And because I have my own immediate sense of it, but that's not helpful. It's a folded napkin that I refer to this a lot, like when you go to a fancy restaurant and there's a napkin that's folded on your plate or in the wine cup or whatever that is so beautiful, like it looks like a peace crane or like a lotus or what do they call it? A bird of paradise, right? Like the fancy folded napkin, and you go, oh, how did you do that? And you're just like, it's just like that. You get there and it's like that. And in order to understand like how that happened, you have to dismantle it and go backwards through it. Right? You know what I'm talking about? So, all right. If you have your own felt sense about this phrase, this zikr phrase, this is not my heart, this is the altar of God. If that immediately feels like yummy, useful, relevant, excellent for you, awesome. Like, stick with that. You're right. You have it right. And go with that. And if you hear that phrase and you're like, I don't know what to do with that, either it feels confusing or it feels dissonant in some way, or it feels like inaccessible or undesirable, or it doesn't fit easily, harmoniously, then you can go, okay, so what is there? So I'm just putting my awareness there. This is not my heart. This is the altar of God. What I notice in myself, and a lot of this is like from conversations with a lot of people about these things, when you say my heart, there's immediately a guardedness about it. Now I have to protect it. Now I have to defend it. Now I have to make sure that it's safe. Now I have to make sure that she is well cared for, and that, like, my heart. And there's a you like it? My heart. Okay. It's mine. There's that sense of ownership about it is actually less about sovereignty and more about a vulnerability and a tenderness that needs to be cared for. My heart. There's also a limitation about it. There's also an association, a defining characteristic of now it is distinct, and this is the one precious little thing that is mine, separate and distinct from every other heart that is not mine, separate and distinct from the ultimate all-pervading heart that is not mine. Now if we go, this is not my heart. First, there's not a my-ness. How fun that my-ness, M-Y hyphen N-E-S-S, is the same as a minus. This minus that, a subtraction. All right, my-ness equals minus. I've never thought about that before, but I like it. That's fun. Which is true. There's a limitation. There's a diminishment that gets tangled up in a constriction of the self-identification, the possessive identification. If this is not about my own self-referencing ownership, vulnerability, tenderness, protectiveness, defendedness, if it is not, then what is it? This experience, this place, this atmosphere, this essence that I've been thinking about in terms of my heart. What is at the depth and at the true center of that? Murshid calls it the altar of God. What does it mean? Altar of God. What happens at an altar? What is the essence of altar? What's that?
They're beautiful things,
There are beautiful things.
beloved things that are
You worship at them.
It's the place of worship. A beautiful place for beautiful things to happen. Does it have to be a bowing? It can be. Do you bow at an altar? Some people do. It is also the place of sacrifices. It is also a place of sanctity, holiness in and of itself.
Sacredness.
Mm-hmm.
Ara is Islamic for pre-Islamic for altar.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are.
Maybe the words are there because that's like that's where we need to go, and we need to really worship it, because that way we get out of our mind that can get caught up in the mind.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to do for me.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is probably not the same as the altar of materialism. It is probably not equivalent to the altar of prideful arrogance. It is probably not the altar of limitation. What you've been thinking about, that is all of us. What we have been thinking about as my heart is so much more than that. The holy place where we can meet and make our offerings to and experience and tend to the beauty that is our own God ideal. Other thoughts, reflections, considerations?
Well, if it is the temple of God, where else would the altar be?
Right at the center. Yeah.
There's something very humbling about that, you know.
Yeah.
It brings with it a humility. When you go there, it's like clears all of the stuff that gets in the way of our relationship with that higher self, that higher realization.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring that awareness in community, it's like, oh, the presence is just elevated and expanded. So much love.
Yeah.
I had an experience when we were doing the psalm prayer.
Mm.
When we brought our hand here, it just, like, it didn't even feel like it was my personal hand. It just felt so loving and amazing, and like, yeah, I'm the temple loving myself, and it felt so amazing and good, and then just thinking of I don't know why my brain went to like temples in Thailand that we visited that are just like, I mean, they're the most beautiful things ever. And then like, I'd never thought of that before, as like that kind of temple is, and how, yeah, just the beauty and the sacredness of that. And then the altar in each one of those is, it's inside. But, yeah, it's just so precious. I don't know, the words aren't quite there, but it felt really amazing to like hold my own heart, and it was like me holding it, but not, it was really God.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rahima. Hi, Bill.
I believe I first encountered this melody about 30 years ago, and it's never been one of my favorites, but I suspect it has subtly worked on me over those 30 years. And now when I encounter it, by the third time through, I am just transported to a place of no thought, no feeling, total nothingness.
Mm.
And I'm just there for the duration. And I don't even have anything to say about that. It's a little bit in awe, but interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Still not one of my favorites. But it seems to work.
I think you're one of her favorites. I know, it's amazing how these things work and unfold within us or blossom within us over the years and experience and things we can't possibly expect or anticipate or guess at. And
Yeah, gets me out of the way.
yeah.
It's like an example of the involution to the evolution.
Aha! Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you, Ara, for bringing those excellent words back in again.
And I see it.
And they're back in my head.
Sorry. I take that back.
Thank you, Bill.
So I've been wondering about the capacity question that came up earlier as to whether we're even qualified to answer that for ourselves. What do we know? Or what we think we know, to me, is like probably off the mark a lot. Just to have perspective around it like that. Yeah.
Maybe that analytical effort is not important. That, like, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is not important. That there's a natural desire when we go, what is true within my own being? That's the question. What is true within my own being? And we don't need to put any numbers on it. We don't need to put any measurements on it. We don't need to put it in the context of a comparison or a relation to anything else. We don't need to call it anything. We don't need to label it. We don't need to pin it down into any particular definitions. Rather, the beautiful name of God for it is Muhsi. It's spelled M-U-H-S-I with English letters, Muhsi. That is the beautiful name of God that means to take an immediate snapshot of whatever is actually true right here, right now, and in your felt experience. So it has the roots of the embodiment, the felt experience, the mu, along with the H-S-I as Chassi, which is the same as Hasib is another beautiful name of God. That's the accountant. That is the quality of God that knows every detail. So with Muhsi, we look and say, what is true? And you can see it in clear, bright, accurate light without needing to describe it. You just go, oh, that's what's true. And then you go, what do we want to do with it? Do we need to add 3% of that, or tone down 6% of that, or widen this angle by 8 degrees? No, like, who cares about any of that? You just go, which direction do you want to go? based on what's true right here, right now. You just point your heart in that direction and start moving. Is it north? Is it west? Who cares? Is it the direction you've pointed your heart? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like that better than, because capacity always involves like a, you know, formula measurement or whatever thing. You know, the mind can't do it, like it has to put something in there.
Okay.
But this other way you're describing is much simpler and freeing in a way. Because then it's just, I mean, you don't know. We don't know anyway, I don't think. Maybe a part of us knows, but it doesn't help us to get to any of those places, maybe.
Right. The goal that I'm understanding more and more is more love,
Yes, please.
right? Then does it matter what the immediate capacity is for love? No. You just know that you want it to be more.
How much more? Lots more.
Just more.
Just more.
More. More love.
What do we want?
How much do we want? More! But give me an exact measurement. No! Just turn on the tap and let it flow.
Say when.
Never.
Never.
You heard what more is an acronym for?
Uh-oh.
Moments of realizing essence.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So yes, more love.
Yeah, more love. I just had this lovely few days with my teacher, who I love more and more all the time, and this quality about expanding the love is so huge, and it's the remedy for everything that we got into. We always get into conversations about ego, that because I'm. You know, it's such a tricky mess, and same kind of thing. Like, do we need to understand all the directions of tricky mess? No, we just know that it's a mess, and what do we want to do with it? More love. And it also came up in, we had several conversations about righteousness, which sounds like such a pretty word, but it is not. Sounds so good, but it is not. Because it immediately falls into judgment and polarization and comparison and...
I didn't hear what the word was.
righteousness. Not a good idea. How do you overcome that? More love. Yeah. Okay, I brought another reading for you. I brought 2 more readings for you, but right now there's one. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? What page was I on? 14? We're staying in the same place. 16. Yeah, same place. But this one is the subject is love. The greatest principle of Sufism is Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah, which Murshid calls God is love, lover, and beloved. That's not the literal translation, but that is how he describes it. The greatest principle of Sufism is Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. God is love, lover, and beloved. When Ahad That is, God as the transcendent one, the all-pervading, inclusive one. When Ahad, the only being, became conscious of his wahdat, that is, the existence, only existence, sorry, Murshid called it only existence, through God's own consciousness, then God's predisposition of love made God project God's self to establish God's dual aspect, that God might be able to love someone. When Ahad, I'm reading it again, when Ahad, the only being, I'm going to do it with the masculine pronouns that Murshid used, but then I'm going to do it with the feminine too. When Ahad, the only being, became conscious of his wahdat, only existence, through his own consciousness, then his predisposition of love made him project himself to establish his dual aspect, that he might be able to love someone. When Ahad, the only being, became conscious of her wahdat, only existence, through her own consciousness, then her predisposition of love made her project herself to establish her dual aspect, that she might be able to love someone. This made God the lover, and manifestation the beloved. This made God the lover, and manifestation the beloved. That has God bowing to you at the altar of your own heart. The next inversion makes manifestation the lover and God the beloved. The next inversion makes manifestation the lover and God the beloved. This force of love has been working through several evolutions and involutions, which end in man, who is the ultimate aim of God. I know. This force of love has been working through several evolutions and involutions, which end in the human being, who is the ultimate aim of God. The dual aspect of God is symbolized by each form of this wonderful world. This whole universe, internally and externally, is governed by the force of love, which is sometimes the cause and sometimes the effect. The producer and the product are one, and that one is nothing but love. Are you okay for a little more? Sufis take the course of love and devotion to accomplish their highest aim, because it is love which has brought man from the world of unity to the world of variety, and the same force can take him back again to the world of unity from that of variety. Love is that state of mind in which the consciousness of the lover is merged in that of the object of his love.
One more time.
Love is that state of mind in which the consciousness of the lover is merged in that of the object of her love. It produces in the lover all the attributes of humanity, such as resignation, renunciation, humility, kindness, contentment, patience, virtue, calmness, gentleness, charity, faithfulness, bravery, by which the devotee becomes harmonized with the Absolute. All of the attributes by which the devotee becomes harmonized with the Absolute. There's one more sentence. Ready? It does take up half the page. I'm just kidding. As one of God's beloved, a path is opened for one's heavenly journey. At the end, one arrives at oneness with God, and one's whole individuality is dissolved in the ocean of eternal bliss, where even the conception of God and man disappears. That's all. Here's part of this again. Sufis take the course of love and devotion to accomplish their highest aim. Because it is love which has brought man from the world of unity to the world of variety, and the same force can take him back again to the world of unity from that of variety. Got it? You know, y'all in the room can see this, but I have so many, not all, but a bunch of my books just have a bunch of these little sticky tabs and notes, and like I circle passages. I don't do a lot of writing in the margins. I do a little bit, but not a lot. Ramat's books are all like this. They're just like little pieces of paper and sticky tabs sticking out of all of them with tons of highlighting and writing. He writes in them a lot more than I do, but I love it. All right, more love. That's the answer. What was the question? Who cares? The answer is more love. All right, shall we sing something?
Yes.
Bill said yes. We're not going to listen to anyone else. Nobody ever wants to disagree with Bill. I don't want to disagree with you either, Bill. I had something in mind. I wonder what it was. I think we have a bunch of Ishkala. That is, God is the love. Ishkala. Ishkala. And then the whole phrase, Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah. Oh, and then there's an Allahu, hu, Allahu, hu. That is really so often with the who, we have this sense of really wanting to tune into the inner life, the world, the consciousness, the atmosphere of our own hearts that doesn't need to be expressed outwardly, but we forget the perfection of our own inner beings. So there's an enlivening quality about it, and really like planting this quality of God essence in our own beings over and over and over again, so that we can strengthen our awareness of it. We can strengthen our felt experience of that lived reality in our own beings. That we're so pulled into the outer world, and which is not bad, but it is less than half of the whole reality. Ishkala, 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 Ishkala. Ishkala, Ishkala, I just want to tell you, I'm a little bit sorry, but I think it's true. If your heart doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right. Right? But you can tell when it's in a good way. It doesn't mean it feels good, but it's just, when you go in to get a massage and it hurts, like everything hurts, and you're like, but I know it's good for me. Like, I know that it's actually relieving the tension. It's actually creating more space, more flow, more health, more strength, more freedom, right? Same with the heart. And these practices are like sports massage for the heart. Just pummel the shit out of it to make it bigger and stronger, to let the love flow more and more. Yeah. All right. I have one more little, this is a short passage, but this is actually what brought me to this book for us today. It was not page 14, 15, 16. Oh gosh, this one's like 70, page 70. Let's see if I can find it. Did I mark it? Was I smart enough to mark it? Probably not. Nope. 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 I'm just kidding about that. Okay. Here? No. Where did I put it? Oh gosh. 78. That probably is it. It's poetically called Conclusion. After whatever this section was. Page 137. I did print out some of these, but I really wanted to bring them from the book. So, and these are excerpts. This isn't the whole entire thing. So, this is from a section called The Phenomenon of the Soul. And this is the conclusion of this section, The Phenomenon of the Soul. I first believed, without any hesitation, in the existence of the soul. And then I wondered about the secret of its nature. I persevered and strove in search of the soul and found at last that I myself was the cover over my soul. I realized that that in me which believed, and that in me which wondered, that which persevered in me, and that which found, and that which was found at last, was no other than my soul. I thanked the darkness that brought me to the light, and I valued the veil which prepared for me the vision in which I saw myself reflected. The vision produced in the mirror of my soul. Since then, I have seen all souls as my soul, and realized my soul as the soul of all. And what bewilderment it was when I realized that I alone was, if there were anyone, that I am whatever and whoever exists, and that I shall be whoever there will be in the future. And there was no end to my happiness and joy. Verily, I am the seed, and I am the root, and I am the fruit of this tree of life. Want to hear that again? The conclusion of the phenomenon of the soul. I don't have time to read it again, but we're going to read it again anyway. I first believed without any hesitation in the existence of the soul, and then I wondered about the secret of its nature. I persevered and strove in search of the soul, and found at last that I myself was the cover over my soul. I realized that that in me which believed, and that in me which wondered, that which persevered in me, and that which found, and that which was found at last, was no other than my soul. I thanked the darkness that brought me to the light, and I valued the veil which prepared for me the vision in which I saw myself reflected, the vision produced in the mirror of my soul. Since then, I have seen all souls as my soul, and realized my soul as the soul of all. And what bewilderment it was when I realized that I alone was, if there were anyone, that I am whatever and whoever exists, and that I shall be whoever there will be in the future. And there was no end to my happiness and joy. Verily, I am the seed, and I am the root, and I am the fruit of this tree of life.
That I could read each one.
All right, we're going to finish with the prayer Peer that is now in the chat window for you. Or
What's it called?
Peer, P-I-R. It's probably the third page in, I'm guessing. Inspirer of my mind, consoler of my heart, healer of my spirit, thy presence lifteth me from earth to heaven. Thy words flow as the sacred river. Thy thought riseth as a divine spring. Thy tender feelings waken sympathy in my heart. Beloved teacher, thy very being is forgiveness. The clouds of doubt and fear are scattered by thy piercing glance. All ignorance vanishes in thy illuminating presence. A new hope is born in my heart by breathing thy peaceful atmosphere. O inspiring guide through life's puzzling ways, in thee I feel abundance of blessing.